Welcome to MellyS, the Story Collector Web TV, where we share inspiring stories from courageous individuals who are sharing the moments and experiences that have shaped their lives. In today's show, we have the beautiful and the gorgeous Rachelle Clayton, who is an absolute amazing woman who is turning the women's can'ts into cans when it comes to their physical fitness. Her story is truly an amazing one, and one I believe you will get a lot from.
So the reason why I want to share this story is to show women who feel that they can't, that they can. That is one of my main focuses. Is I have a lot of women who feel that they can't move or they can't do certain things or be full in life because of certain things and dysfunctions or medical conditions that might stop them from living the life that they want to live. So I turn women's can'ts into cans.
Well, I love that.
So that's my impact, yeah.
I love it, and it's definitely something you do. I've noticed that, especially with the people around you. You have this way of going, you can do that, thank you.
Yep, we just find another way.
Exactly.
Yep.
Now, where did all this start for you? Where did this journey begin?
Well, my journey began when I was 30 and I decided to go on a big health kick. Before that, I lost my mum at the age of 48 to cancer. And so I really was looking at my own child and children after that, thinking that I didn't want to be ill or unable to, bring them up in life. So I decided I wanted to get fit and healthy. Now, how I went about that was probably not in the best interest of myself and my body, physically, mentally, and emotionally. However, I learnt a lot from it. And so my main focus was really just trying to get my body as small as I could, because that's what society says that we do, is we lose weight. So my quest...
Make that happen.
So I was, at the start, I didn't know anything about health and fitness. So I just started walking around my house pretty much. Yeah. Just walking around the house every day, making sure I was moving more. And then I started slowly looking at nutrition and how I could eat better and things like that. So I went from not eating well and not exercising to really picking that up very quickly and starting to eat really well and then exercising a lot, which then spiraled into disordered eating and disordered exercise.
Okay.
So this was over a period of years. Yes, very much so. So I'm a perfectionist at heart, and so I just wanted to be the perfect mum.
Yep. So do you feel there was a lot of pressure on you to be this perfect person?
Yes, I think society really does dictate that you have to be this perfect mother, person, wife, carer, partner, whatever, and run a successful business or have a successful career. I think there's way too much pressure on women and men to have this perfectionism that everything is perfect in life, and it's just not. Once you strip back that, take the perfectionism away, then you really begin to dive deeper and see who you really are authentically, real and raw. And so after many years of that disordered thinking, I decided to start peeling back those layers.
Yeah. And what was the trigger to start peeling back those layers and do it the right way?
So my body started to break down after the birth of my second child. I had some really bad medical things that just weren't aligning with me, and I had some severe women's issues that were really, I thought, holding me back at the time. And I was constantly going to the doctor to get myself checked just to make sure that I was okay, because, you know, coming from someone who saw what my mother went through, I was really obsessed about making sure that I was fit and healthy.
Yeah.
And the doctor was just kept saying to me, you're fine. There's nothing wrong with you. Your heart's fine. You are fit. You are healthy. You're just a tired young mum. Underlying, now that I look back, I was severely anemic, and I didn't realize at the time I had what's called adenomyosis, which is a form of endometriosis. That was then diagnosed 12 years after the birth of my daughter.
Wow. And how did that impact your life?
So I was obviously anemic, which is constantly tired. My hair was falling out. I was always cold. I had no energy. And then on top of that, I was exercising to the ridiculous degree, and I wasn't feeding my body correctly.
Yeah.
So I wasn't nourishing myself enough. I was cutting calories and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So at what point did you switch that and go, okay, enough's enough. This is not helping me. I need to make some healthy changes.
So about 5 years ago, let's go back a little bit further. So about 7 years ago, I decided that I wanted to become a personal trainer and help other women get fit and healthy.
Yeah.
Now, I was still in this disordered realm at the time and still trying to work out what was going on with my women's issues at the same time.
Yeah.
And so I went into this at a bull at a gate. Perfectionism was driving me yet again, as well as my ego. And I was determined that I was going to help all these millions of women, you know, become the fittest and the best they could be. And how wrong was I? Looking back.
Yeah.
However, I learned a lot. So I started to really study into all of this and really look at why we have to feel like we are perfect, and why do we have to feel like thin is the ideal. You know, body positivity started to come onto the scene a little bit, just in little pockets on the internet. And obviously the internet is a perfect place to get heaps and heaps of information. So I started looking at that, and I come across some lady at the time who had really rejected the thought of Fitspo as we all know it. Yeah. And she had an eating disorder, and she blogged about her experiences, and her experiences were very similar to mine. So I just kept diving more and more into it. And this whole new world of a body positive fitness opened up to me.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking, you know what? All I see with a lot of my clients is fear, hurt, anger, feeling like they're not enough.
Yeah.
And so I thought, this has to change. Surely there's a better way if I really start opening up to these women and showing them that, you know, maybe there's a different way. Maybe we need to just be more compassionate and empathetic with ourselves, and just exercise because it feels good, not because we're always constantly striving for this ideal body.
Yeah.
So that was my catalyst then for change, and changing the way I owned my business, I ran my business, and also changing the way that I looked at myself.
Yeah. And how did that change your self-perception then?
So I started then diving into how I could reverse my disordered thoughts.
Yeah.
I got some help with that, which was absolutely amazing. It was the best thing that I ever did. I started opening up and talking about the things that I was thinking and realizing where the issues really lied. So it was like peeling off an onion layer, really, of heaps and heaps of years and years of pain, anger, anguish, childhood stuff.
Yeah.
And then got down to who I really was and what I really wanted. And really what I wanted was just to be happy, just to be healthy, and, you know, just to be in a place of balance in my life.
And how did you find that then?
So obviously I started reversing all of my thoughts and patterns, and I had some help with how to do that.
Yeah.
And I started slowly eating more food. I started exercising less. I started worrying less about what my body looked like. So I wasn't constantly looking in the mirror, hoping for more muscle or hoping for less fat. I sort of rejected the notion of all of that. And at the same time, I was bringing my clients along on that journey as well.
Yeah.
It was very difficult, obviously, to do that while I was still trying to figure out my own thoughts and feelings. However, a lot of my clients were like so receptive about this new way of thinking and you know, how could we do that? So it was just step by step, hour by hour, you know, of constantly trying to reverse those thought patterns. And it's not easy, and it does take years. And even still, you know, you have days like I'm now, 7 years later, I still have days of self-doubt, self-confidence. But now that's okay.
Yeah.
For me, I allow those feelings in, where before I would always reject them.
And do you think it's owning that within yourself, which is what's helped
Absolutely
people?
Yes, you've got to be able to own that within yourself, and be not scared to stand up and go, I've got a different way. This is the way that I think that maybe it could work. And you know, you're going to get pushed back on that, which is fine. That's not a problem. However, I've had a lot more, a lot less pushback on that than what I would have thought I would have had. And I think that's just because I'm totally in alignment with the way I feel.
Yeah. And maybe that's exactly what society has wanted, but no one's been brave enough to stand up and ask for it. And you've just been one of the very first people to say, hey, no, this is what we really want. And you just happen to be in the right space to help people at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah.
So where has all this journey taken you through all of this? What's the amazing things that have happened?
Oh, there's been so many amazing things that have happened. So I've found out so much more about myself, like deeply about myself and how I react and how I act and how the world perceives me, which is can be quite confronting. However, it leads to growth. And so I've grown as a person exponentially over, you know, the last many years, but more so over the last 7 years since starting the training, being a trainer, than I think ever in my life before.
Yeah.
So the world has opened up. I know so many more people. I've met so many beautiful people. I feel like spiritually I'm more in alignment with myself. You know, authenticity is my second name. Like there's nothing hidden, I guess, anymore from me. Yeah. I'm just an open book. And I thought I was an open book before.
Yes.
But now I really am.
Yeah. So you feel like we have this perception that we are authentic, we are real, and then something happens and we go, oh, hang on, maybe we're not as real as we thought we were. And then, Now, one of the things I love about what you do is the fact that you work mostly with women and specifically around their menstrual cycle.
Yeah.
Because I know one of our very first conversations, that was the first thing you slipped in. I was like, yes, I love you.
Yes. Yeah.
So how did
So I started doing some study around the menstrual cycle just for my own purposes, really, my own learning purposes, to learn more about my body. Because with the adenomyosis, I wanted to really dive deeper in there and see if I could find that there was a system of energies or a system of how to work out a month training-wise really was for me.
Yeah.
So I started really diving into that side of things, and I noticed that there was a very clear pattern with my life in that monthly cycle of when I was most energetic, when I was most introvert, when it was the best time for me to write something out or journal something. And I just was taken aback by it and thought, wow, there's got to be more to this. So I started then reading more and more into it. And I did some courses with my mentor through that as well, and noticed that other people had been doing this in regards to training women, and thought, okay, this is definitely where I'm sitting here.
Yeah.
And also at the same time, I started looking at the pelvic floor and the core, and working with women that had dysfunction in the pelvic floor and the core. So it's all intertwined, really.
Yeah.
And so that led me to then start using this with my clients and tracking my clients, their monthly cycle.
Yeah.
And then we would do our sessions planned around that. So if you were to come to me and say, okay, my cycle is due next week, then I would know not to push you too hard, because, you know, you could be a little bit lower in energy, or in actual fact, some women are much higher in energy at that time. So that's why we track each individual to see what sort of cycle they come up with. Yeah. It was fascinating work. I absolutely love it. And I still find out things now about it.
Yeah. And how does this all link with your spirituality then? Because you mentioned slightly before that it kind of triggered some spiritual elements in you as well.
So when I was a young child, my grandfather was very much into astrology and the moon and the stars. And so he taught me a lot of stuff. But over the years, that sort of got buried as, you know, you become, you know, a adult, and, you know, you have children and a life. And I sort of didn't want to continue on with it as such, because it wasn't, again, in the normal of society.
Yeah.
You know, it's looked upon as woo-woo.
Yeah.
So I then noticed that within myself, when I was tracking my cycle, that there's also a moon component around my moods as well. So depending on when the moon is a new moon or a full moon, depending on when your cycle is, you can really notice a change in your emotions and your energies and your flow.
Yeah.
So I started tracking that. I always experiment on myself first. So I started tracking that for myself and really went, oh, there's definitely something in this. And so I began then putting that into play with my clients as well, and really noticing a massive shift.
Yeah.
And they were loving it, you know, and still are loving it. They're just like, okay, so what's the moon doing this week?
Yeah. I love those conversations.
Yeah. So it's really good.
Okay, so what, so you told us how this experience has changed your life, but how do you see your experiences changing other people's lives?
How do I see my experiences changing other people's lives?
Yeah.
Knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So the more knowledge we have, I feel the better we are able to, find out more about our bodies and dive deeper.
Yeah.
So I'm always educating my clients on their own bodies, making sure that they have that mind-body connection. I talk about that a lot in my sessions, is making sure that the brain is knowing what the body is doing.
Yeah.
Oftentimes women, when they first come to me, are very disconnected. So their mind is one thing, their body is another. So I will get them to talk, you know, their mind and body to talk to each other, and really get them to understand what's going on with one and how that affects the other, and vice versa.
Yeah.
I think that is the biggest thing that I will that I will impart onto my clients.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing as well is getting them to recognize if there's an issue with their cycles, with the way they're feeling. You know, a lot of my clients are coming into that time where they might be starting to go into perimenopausal, but they don't identify or recognize that there could be a problem.
Yeah.
So I will always say, okay, maybe there's an issue here. Maybe you need to go and speak to a specialist, another health professional, to find out what's going on.
Yeah.
So I'm very big on checking in with them every single time I see them. How are you feeling today? What are your energy levels like? How are you feeling? Not just body-wise, but mentally and emotionally.
Yeah.
So it's a whole holistic package of that person in front of you.
That's amazing. And from what I can gather, you are very, very different to most in your industry. How has that affected you?
So I do come from a place of body positivity. And for people that don't understand what that means, I am not a typical trainer where I will say, burn off those donuts you ate, or berate you for having an extra cup of coffee, or trying to tell you that you need to eat kale every day of the week. I am a trainer that comes from balance, looking after you as an individual and what that means for you, and then getting you to move in a way that feels good for you. Yeah. So if something doesn't work, then we don't do it, or we find a different way to do it. And I think that is the most difference, being a body positive trainer. I come from a place of empathy and compassion, and I will listen to the person in front of me and what they are telling me.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And you can see that. You just embody those elements. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Now, MellyS, the Story Collector Web TV, is only run because of our amazing sponsors who step up each and every week to help make this show a reality. Now, this week, our episode has been sponsored by Rachelle herself, and she would love for you to download her PDF, How to Know Your Woman's Issue is an Issue. So if you would like to get your hands on this PDF, there'll be a link somewhere around the screen. Please download that and say thank you to our beautiful sponsor for this week's episode. And we'll see you next week, same time, same place, for another inspiring story.